You know what I was actually thinking about the other day is that a good, I would say, I don't have a hard number on this, but I'd say a good like 50% of our streams talk about like start with us talking about like something to drink. You ever notice that? Whether it's like
Yeah.
coffee, we did
Or
coffee, coconut water, we did like yeah, it's like it's like crazy. It's like the ultimate small talk.
drinks, like, I don't know, something about having a bunch of different flavored seltzer waters, and I need the fizz.
I stopped right before I got here. I stopped and picked up this because I had nothing left and just stocked up.
Yeah. Um, yeah, the fizz keeps me focused.
I was actually looking at today. Um, it was Ashton Hall was talking about he spent like someone asked him how much money he spends on water every month, and he was like, I don't know, you got to ask my assistant that, but it was he said he thought it was somewhere in the realm, which that alone as a statement is crazy, but it was like somewhere in the realm of $400 to $500 a month, and I was like, it's a lot on water. That's crazy.
Yeah. Um, I just looked up if yeah, I looked up if he remember I said I didn't know if he had equity in the company, and it turns out he doesn't, it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, he should at this point, or at least they're giving him some brand deals or something in Saratoga. But you were saying that they're not like I mean, I thought that they were pretty big beforehand.
Yeah, they were big before. I mean, obviously he definitely helped their business.
Yeah. I mean, I was saying to the other day, like I feel like, the saying like we made the right guy famous. Like every time I've ever heard him talk, it's all been stuff that I'm like, yeah, he seems like pretty solid individual. But one of the things he was saying actually on that the water thing, he was like, I prefer to like have my I prefer to work, which is the same mentality that we have, where it's like I prefer to work and then have the luxuries that I want and then work for those luxuries rather than settle for something that is less than what I want.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Anybody just joining in here, welcome, welcome. Um, yep, Darkness, glad to have you back. We are love seeing the consistent faces. I mean, I think it was Darkness last time that was saying he's closing brand deals as a result, and what helped him is these live calls every single week, so tuning in every week, consistently showing up, and just getting the information right, and then more importantly than learning the information is implementing it right.
Yep.
So we might run this for 35-40 minutes, but there could be one tidbit of information on minute 27 and a half that you could take to the bank, so we're really trying to unpack all the brand direct stuff and make that model, very accessible to the new seller, because it's not as scary as it seems.
Yeah, that's all I look forward to whenever I'm like, no matter what it is, whether it's I'm reading a book or whether I'm like listening to something, I just look for one piece of information that I think is going to be, you know, worthwhile. Because sometimes that's all it takes. One piece of information can completely make everything worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of which, I got this book here next to me. Go Do Deals. I was just reading another chapter out of this one. That's the one about acquisitions.
Yeah, that's what you're telling me about. I'm pretty sure the cover of that book is, at least it looks like it. There's a stock image on Canva that I've used of those shaking hands like that, and I'm fairly certain that that's the exact same one.
Maybe. Still a good book. I was like, remember you walked into the office this week and I was on a call with one of our brands.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it kind of led into that discussion of them being interested in selling the company.
Yeah. Well, I walked in midway through that, so like I didn't get the first part of it, and so it's already like the brand for anyone listening. It's already a brand that's exclusive, right? But I walked in the middle of it, and I gave you that look because you like looked up and laughed because I was like, "What the? What are you doing?" And you muted the phone, and you're like, "I can't stop! I can't stop!"
Gonna pioneer a new business model in the Amazon space, and then
I
teach
mean, there's
people how
something
to
to be
do it.
said about that though. Like the acquisition thing is big, and like we kind of talk about it more and more because I mean, you're definitely way more versed in it than I am. I don't really haven't dabbled in it too much, but it's been interesting, at least looking on the surface of what the potential of something like that is. So like brand direct, and then you could even acquire a stake in the company. That's huge.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these deals are really just start with the relationship. Like the relationship is, you just don't know where a relationship is going to go. You
Yeah.
really don't. Yeah, Darkness making a lot of calls, a lot of applications.
Hmm. Yeah, let's touch on this stuff. There's a kind of a lot here that I like want to say. Is there any initial thoughts on that?
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, first of all, you shouldn't be filling out application forms like crazy. Like if you can get away with ideally not filling out application forms and getting a price list first, that is your ideal situation. And just I would really be upfront. Like we do not hide any sort of like, whether we sell on Amazon or not. It's all very upfront. And I think that you're going to be better off doing that than trying to kind of beat around the bush.
Yeah. Yeah, well, like what I said was like there was a brand. I think I put this on Twitter, was that there was a brand who there was kind of like two sellers in contention, us being one of them, and one other. And that other seller like push hard that we're going to expand your foreign marketplace presence in Amazon foreign
Yeah.
marketplaces. And in the back of the seller's mind is that, oh, we're just going to use this to string them along to get the Amazon US. And then what ended up happening was that seller actually just basically backed out of the foreign marketplaces and said, oh, we want to, capitalize and build up US first before we take those, before we expand into those foreign marketplaces. And at that time, I was having a conversation with the brand, and I was completely upfront and transparent about what we were doing, that we were going to focus on Amazon US, grow that marketplace. I was completely honest with them with what we had to offer. And, needless to say that brand went with us and not the other seller. And not just because we presented him with very convicting information, but also because that seller made himself look bad. He backpedaled that seller, and then the brand pulled out of that deal.
Yeah. You're always better off just being honest up front. And the thing is, like, I look at it two ways because I'm always like, you want to promise and then figure it out later. Like I've been there. I know you've been there. A lot of cases where we're like, we're going to do something. We don't know how we're going to do it yet, but we're going to figure it out. The problem is that the seller that doesn't, get the account is the one that promises it, but then doesn't figure it out, right? Like there's no follow through. I think that's huge, is making sure that you follow through on your promises, like regardless.
Right. Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
honesty, obviously.
Yeah. So anybody just joining in here, throw some questions in the chat if you guys have them. We'll dive into some sourcing here in a bit. Look at some brands in Smart Scout, potential brands of interest, right?
Yeah, definitely. And also like following up on that, yeah, you're asking for the price list first in a lot of cases. In all cases, really. I mean, if you can get the price list, like that's all you all you need. If they want you to fill out an application form, then if you got to do it, you got to do it. But I would run the price list.
Yeah. Yeah. It's going to save you a lot of time.
Yeah, definitely. And there's a certain point too at which you like, and that point is pretty early on where you should not be filling out applications by yourself or doing anything like that. Like you should be having an assistant doing that stuff. Make an SOP, make something that has all the information, has your company name, has your address, has all that stuff, and have that document sent to your employee, and then have your employee fill out the account applications.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, we'll dive into some sourcing here, probably, and the title of this live is Make $300 in a Day. And the way that process begins is through sourcing. You can source through Keep a Product Finder. You can source through Smart Scout. And those are our primary vehicles to source. And then we want to expand on that through storefront stalking.
Yep.
And so if you can make $333 a day selling products on Amazon,
6 figures.
you can get to your 10K profit per month, which is a lot of people's goal. I think once people start to get to that 10K profit per month, the pressure, starts to get off a little bit. That seems like a lot of people's goals. And in all reality, we're analyzing the relationship between how many units we sell and what the selling price is. So that's exactly what we're going to explore here today.
Yeah, absolutely. What's up, Aaron? Thanks for joining. What's the next trade show we're going to? We might be at ASD in August. Not quite sure yet, but yeah, I mean, we'll post about anything that we're going to. But if you are debating on going to trade shows, I would definitely recommend going. Could be huge for developing relationships with brands or meeting new brands or, whatever, meeting other sellers.
Yeah, and ASD is more of a trade show for distributors. You're not going to really find any brands there. So some good brand trade shows are like Fancy Food Show. It's coming up in New York City. They do a show twice a year, one in New York City, one in Vegas. You have the Expo West show, right? You're going to get a lot of health and grocery brands there. What else? The Great American Outdoors Expo is another good one. That's like camping, outdoors, hunting, things of that nature. So, if you're going to be targeting brands, like go to trade shows that are in specific industries, right?
Yeah, we transparently, I mean, ASD for us is more for filming content and, doing stuff like that. So. Yeah, I think that if you're trade shows are a great way to get out of your comfort zone too. Like if you're talk about like throwing yourself into the lion's den, like if you're uncomfortable getting on the phone, you should try meeting a supplier in person. Like you're gonna have to get real comfortable real fast.
Yeah. So we're here inside Smart Scout, and if you guys have been joining us for any amount of time, this stuff is no secret to you. But this is exactly how we find these small to medium sized brands, right? And so Keep a Product Finder is a very similar process. The Smart Scout UI is much better. Keep is a little bit overwhelming with everything they have, but yeah, both are great ways to source. So if you don't have Smart Scout, use Keep a Product Finder, which we cover, on these lives. Today we're gonna look at Smart Scout, but yeah, you don't need Smart Scout to start sourcing. And anyway, even if we find brands in here, like our next objective is to then find storefronts, right? That are, that we can then source those storefronts. So we want a minimum number of FBA sellers of 2. I don't know, a minimum price of 9. We want the country to be in the United States, dominant seller country. We want Amazon maximum on the listing of 15%. And am I missing anything here?
I think pretty solid. Yeah, I mean, yeah, pretty solid. Yeah.
Right. And so now we just do that, and that'll just totally filter out all of our massive brands because we're only looking at quarter million a month in revenue, which is still a lot, but it's going to get rid of like those top brands, like the big name brands for the most part. And so when we're scrolling here, like what would you say are a few KPIs that you're looking at, like indicators that are perhaps drawing, you to that particular item?
Yeah, I mean, kind of I guess you could look at it either way, but the category, right? So looking at something like that vet one, that would be something I would immediately just stay away from for two reasons. One is because it's a supplement, and then two, vet industry, pet industry in general, just a lot of requirements for licensed people, veterinarians, things like that. So category is one. For the most part, we are category agnostic, and we can we'll source in whatever category, but if it's something like that where we think there's going to be all these extra requirements, then we won't do it. And then another thing, like I know you're the same way. Like I'll just look at a brand name and I'll be like, that looks interesting. I don't know what the logic is to that. It's more so just like we do this enough. Like I'm interested in that third one down, that Dormsey. Looks like kind of an interesting one.
Yeah.
For no reason other than the brand looks interesting, right? And I immediately don't like it because one, I don't know if the product is actually there, and two, it looks to be more of a private label map. I know we filtered within the US, but that looks like a Chinese based listing from what I'm looking at,
Yeah.
just based on the pictures.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, what about that tells you that? Because that was like within a split second, you had a conclusion. So, like, maybe somebody just, a beginner might not be able to draw that conclusion right away and then might waste time reaching out to this brand. Like, what about that is giving you that indicator?
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you see enough of these, and you get to understand like what a um, a listing that looks like it needs your help looks like. This listing, just from looking at it, I can see that there is a stability in the price. I can see that there's a pretty crisp image, almost looks a little manufactured. I can see that there's the sales velocity. It's just something that it looks a little bit too artificial for me to want. Um, personally.
Yeah, I think it's really that artificial. A lot of the Chinese products, they put these very artificial images.
Right.
you know and so yeah, we'll look at like the brand score, right? Trying to target a brand that might have a lower brand score. I was looking at this, but then I immediately went away from it because it's in the electronics category.
Yeah.
We don't want to sell in that category because of the high return rate.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, there's always like anomalies to everything. Learning the sourcing process is just about learning exactly that, learning the process, and then analyzing every listing individually. Like just because we say that a product is like electronics, like you don't want to sell in it, it doesn't necessarily mean you should never sell an electronics product. It just has to do with, on a case by case basis, but it's just a rule of thumb in general.
Yeah. Yeah. So, we'll just keep scrolling here and then pop up a couple in new tabs. I don't know if anything's catching your eye. And we're on page, I mean, we're on page 1 here, but like the process really begins once you start storefront stocking.
Yeah, I think that again, it's like no matter what you use, whether you use storefront stock, whether you use Keep a Product Finder, whether you use Smart Scout, it's just about like understanding the conceptual element of it. Because at the end of the day, I wish there was a software that did all three of them combined, right? Like the layout of Smart Scout, the detailed, granular data that Keep a Product Finder, gets you without the overwhelming amount of big brands that it gets you as well. Like there's no like perfect solution. You're going to have to deal with something regardless. A lot of people say a Smart Scout almost like limits them. They run into a lot of the same brands with the same criteria and filters. So it's just about understanding the concept so that you can go and take that to whatever platform that you'd like.
Yeah. So, I popped a couple open here. Right. Try to get, go a little bit of a variety in terms of selling price relative to volume. Um, Not really loving this because of like it's just not enough volume for the sell price.
Mm-hmm.
Like $5, we're not gonna be making any money on that. So I would honestly just close that out. Um, I mean, this is not that. I mean, what do you think about this?
It's okay. I mean, we've got like the first thing that catches my eye is that there's some issues with a couple of the listings, right? And I'm going to make an assumption about the brand based on the two pictures that I see, the third listing and then the eighth listing down, or whatever that is, 10th listing down, is that there's no cohesiveness over Amazon. And I'm going to say that just based on the fact that one or two of those pictures are completely, different, and not done professionally, and no one is taking care to work on the listings at all. And we can see that when we click on this one, you can see there's really nothing going on. So I like this already just based on like the volume isn't crazy, but I think this is a really good brand for a beginner to maybe reach out to.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, exactly. Um, like this is something that you can actually come in and provide value to the brand because of the poor images, because of the poor listings.
Let's take a look at that other one that's next to it where it says add to go down. It's on the yeah, they're frequently bought together.
This one.
Yeah. Yeah. So as if it couldn't get any worse, right? Yeah. So there's obviously like one of the sellers probably did this. Honestly, the brand probably doesn't even know it exists. And, they've got some traction with a terrible listing, which means that there's some brand equity there. So,
Mm-hmm. Yep. And what, you could like, if you improve this listing and got real great images on there and optimize the SEO and the content and everything, I mean, you could you might be able to double the sales on something like this.
yeah.
If it's only moving 100 units a month with like one crap image, it's like,
Yep. We're optimizing a listing right now, or optimizing a brand, and quite literally did nothing but improved the pictures on the listing, took it from like two pictures to, fully optimized everything. And we have seen in the last 2 months repeatedly, we have seen $8,200 in increased revenue both months in a row since we did that. Did nothing but images. And we've
yeah,
seen higher conversion. We've all, it's like the stuff, it does, if you do it right, it does work, right? Is it going to work for every single listing? Maybe not, but
yeah. I mean, it's all relative to like the total market size.
yeah,
It's like you're not going to take a niche and make it like if it's a small little niche, you're not going to make it like a big, massive, uh, consumer packaged good. demand type product. Like you're just not going to get there. But you could expand it relative to the niche. You could take market share from other competitors by running ads, so maybe not expanding the size of the industry or size of the niche, but stealing market share, right? Being more strategic. And so, something like this, right? Only 100 units bought in the past month, but it's selling at $269, so that's not too bad.
Yeah.
Also, it looks like it's 6 pounds. So, I mean, it's not going to be crazy expensive in terms of fees. I mean, you're going to get your pick and pack fee is going to be a little bit higher because you got a 6 pound item, but I don't see it being crazy. Like this is something that you just might want to make sure, like when you actually go to reach out to this brand, like the only thing that's telling me is they might be specific to like automotive, just because, this is like for a specific model type thing. But you don't know if you don't reach out.
Yeah. Another thing I kind of want to touch on this is it's a little more granular, but and don't quote me on it 100%, but there is something within terms of service, where it says that the product, if it's something like this, has to say compatible with type of deal. Right here it says Ford Silverado Sierra 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive. I don't know if that is specifically spaced that way, the Silverado and Sierra, so that it's not technically the word, or if that was just done by accident, but compatible with, I believe is the phrasing to avoid some IP complaints and things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. All these little things, that could potentially be delivered, in a way to a brand.
Yeah.
All right. But these are 2 listings right here that we would actually go and reach out to the brand.
Yep.
And so Josh is saying that it's a good brand. You guys leaking your leads.
What's up, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, we're giving it. I mean, we're giving it away, man. Like this is the way to do it. We gotta.
I mean, the goal, like
process.
Yeah, the goal is, I mean, we are, I guess you could say it that way, right? But like, we're actively trying to find brands and using our methodology that you guys can then reach out to actually put into practice what you're learning on the lives, right? Like an idea, like I don't want anyone to come to these lives as they're sourcing every week to be like, these are the brands that I'm going to reach out to. Like you need to be doing the work on your own.
No, that's not going to get you too far, but yeah, I mean, it's to show you the process at the end of the day. Like this is not like there are so many brands out there. It's unbelievable. If I spent every minute sourcing for the rest of my life, I would never reach the end.
Right.
It's like,
right.
And so Tim,
what's up, Tim?
What's going on, man? How you doing? How's it going? Just got off the phone with the distributor, so I got to catch the replay. How'd the distributor call go? Let us know.
Let's touch on that other question there from Josh as well. Why haven't you guys ran ad campaigns for the brand you only change images on? If so, how do you know the change of images are solely affecting the sales? Well, so that's a good question. So it's a control factor, right? That's the only thing that's been changed. So unless there is some crazy anomaly in the demand of the product, which there has not been, then that's the only thing that we can point to. Additionally, the sales on Amazon have increased, not the sales other places. So just another factor there. When you talk about running ad campaigns, right? So ad campaign, excuse me, ad campaigns before an optimized listing mean absolutely nothing, right? So like you can run ads on something, and if the keyword is not in the listing itself, it's not going to do anything. Like you need to be running ads that translate back to a good listing, because good listings, obviously you have the keywords and stuff like that, but the content, all of those things, the brand store, like everything is focused on click-through and conversion. So you don't want to be running ads to a listing that's broken, essentially. So we always focus on that first.
Yep. Ads is for visibility, so we want to spend money on ads to drive visibility to the listing, But if we're driving visibility to a listing that's not going to convert, then we are not maximizing our dollar, right? So we want to get that listing optimized from soup to nuts, images, A+ content, all the SEO. And then from there, it's like a second phase that we move the brands into, which is the advertising phase, right?
I just looked up where that saying from soup to nuts comes from, and apparently that it used to be because of the order of meals at some point in time, and soup was first, and apparently you used to have nuts after dinner, which I've never heard of that, but I was curious.
Yeah. Had a 40-minute call with a brand owner today. Once again, potential exclusive opportunity. He was 50-50, said he doesn't want to take us e-commerce guys, but I can tell I got him to open up on ideas. Yeah, that's great. That's exactly how you want to do it. Just keep, slowly giving them value over time. It's like maybe it's not going to happen today, but a month from now it might happen. 3 months from now it might happen. 6 months from now, like you just don't know. So you want to be there, follow up, stay current with them, and then just build the rapport with him. Because if you continue to build that rapport, you guys are going to develop a relationship that precedes the account or precedes the brand exclusive. And that's the best way to then get into a brand exclusive, is to get into an exclusive when you've already built a relationship with them and already had that conversation.
Yep.
Yeah, and storefront stalking is, it's quite literally like, it's like
I would almost point to the YouTube video on that one. Right.
So like if we look at, I'll put the YouTube video in here, but if we like literally look here, right, at this listing, we go here and we look and see what are the other sellers that are selling this product. Beauty, small seller, 10 reviews, terrible reviews, beauty. This looks like a beauty. So everybody's beauty here, right? Like, or they're just like terribly ranked. So this is not really a listing that I would want to source these stores from. We're basically just looking for storefronts that are selling a variety of products, Amazon sellers that we can come in and do, better than what they're doing. Right.
Yep.
Yep. And thanks for watching.
What's up, Fatima? Thanks for joining. Appreciate you.
Tim, call went well. It's a local distributor, and the sales rep wants to meet up locally to sit down, discuss things at some point, which has me a little nervous because it's so early on.
I mean, that's good though. Like we actually, one of the guys that we're coaching actually just had that same exact thing basically. And, told us that, hey, we think, after this we met up a second time, and then, looking at going exclusive. The guy talked to his partner, and they're looking at moving forward. And it's just like, that was a big selling point to be like, I trust you, you're in my area type of deal. It just gives you a little bit more legitimacy, I think, than anybody else because you're in their area. So I think it's a good thing. Like, don't be nervous. I mean, it is what it is.
Yep. Just build that relationship, focus on the brand, focus on the relationship. Don't put too much pressure on like needing to do something, right? It's just with the distributor, it's really about volume. So maybe emphasize that.
Yep.
And how often do we run these lives? So we go live every Wednesday at 7:00 Eastern time, and we go live across YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram. So we're here every week, 7:00, sourcing brands, talking wholesale, talking Amazon, answering your questions, so yeah, it's good stuff. Good stuff. If you guys have any last minute questions, fire them here in the chat.
What's up, Mike? How's it going? Thank you for joining. Do you guys sell branded bundles?
No. That is, I mean, if we're talking branded bundles, like
One brand and one brand.
What was that?
Define, if they could define, Mike, whether you're talking about one brand and another brand together, or maybe two items from the same brand, like a virtual bundle.
Yeah, I mean, if we're talking like SKU, like brand A and brand B, and put them together under another brand, that's completely against Amazon TOS and will get you shut down.
One brand.
But under one brand, a multi-pack is completely fine. You can also bundle other products together, but it's got to be complementary, right? Like you're not going to bundle like a water bottle like with something like that. Just doesn't make any sense. Like it's got to be a complementary product,
Yeah, exactly. And I would definitely recommend, like I said, doing virtual bundles. I think that's huge. If you don't know what that is, it's just when you're carrying both items in stock and you can create, actually, you have to create another listing technically, right? But it is a listing that will appear under the parent listing. So like if you have water bottle A and water bottle B, right, from the same brand, and you pair them together in a virtual bundle, that virtual bundle will appear on the listing under water bottle A and water bottle B. And it just, you'll see, actually, you can get sales from it. So especially if the products are complementary.
Yeah, and you don't even have to bundle them. Like
No.
Amazon bundles them at the warehouse and
Yep.
ships them out to the customers.
And that's what I'd recommend if you're going to do anything with bundles. I would definitely recommend doing that.
That's a good way to test the bundle too before you
Right.
actually go and create a separate new ASIN and everything.
Right.
Yeah. So Tuesday, going to a trade show. Checked all the brands attending the show. Found some of the brand not on Amazon, but all lots of demand. Amazon, what can you? Yeah, I mean, definitely source through that list and literally just go through the list and see which brands have the top demand on Amazon and make sure that Amazon doesn't sell them directly and the brand is not selling them directly like they're the only sellers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's pretty much how we do it. I
Yeah.
mean, there's something like it depends the trade show that you're going to, but if it's a massive trade show, it's gonna be very difficult to pre-source that entire list. So we might quite literally like just walk the show and kind of just keep our eyes peeled for brands that sort of look like, a brand that, and then we'll have our phone up and we'll look on Amazon, so you don't be afraid to get scrappy in that process.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, good on you though for going, making the effort. That's like what it's all about, is just going above and beyond. And like, that's, if you guys are in these lives every week, especially, like that's what you're doing. And we see that, and it's going to show in your results.
Yeah. And Tim, so can you tell us the difference of what you guys do when storefront stocking? Are you looking for the brand or the product similar to OA?
Yeah. So we're looking for storefronts that fit the criteria that we're trying to source. So you can clear, like when Brad was going through and he saw, this is a beauty distributor, beauty store, et cetera, right? Like those are stores we're probably not going to want to look through, because it's going to be specifically beauty items that, not there's anything wrong with that. Maybe we'll click on the store and it's a good small to medium sized brands and it makes sense. But let's say we click on another store and it's nothing but big name beauty products from distributors, right? That's not a store that we're going to be looking through, just because it doesn't make sense for us, right?
Right. Yep. Yeah, exactly. So, good stuff. Yeah, we go live every Wednesday, 7:00. You guys, we love answering the questions.
Jacob, what's good?
Information on Amazon. Jacob, where you been, man? We've been on here for 40 minutes, but good to have you. Good to have you on. Doing great. How are you? And so biggest takeaway from this, like what would you say, like one takeaway from this session is?
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, I was going to say one thing I want to acknowledge is that the amount of people that are, um, like I said, going above and beyond is like
Thanks, Mike.
it's huge, right? Amount of people that are going above and beyond and reaching out to brands and like you guys are the minority, right? Like you're the minority if you're in here and you're making the effort.
Thanks, man.
Um, super super cool to see that. First of all, but I think that the main takeaway that I probably have from this call, I mean, for me personally, um, I think it just has to do with getting uncomfortable, right? Because that's what a lot of the theme has been with everybody who's saying, I'm uncomfortable to maybe ask for the price list first, or I'm uncomfortable to go to the trade show. Like I don't know what I'm doing, right? Like or I'm uncomfortable to meet with the brand in person. And I think at the end of the day, being uncomfortable is good because it means you're progressing and you're growing. I think that that's a really big part of this is if you're feeling uncomfortable about doing something, good. That means you're moving in the right direction.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. It's way easier to stay stuck, in a bubble, right? And not branch out and take risks, right? It's way easier to do that. So it's harder. Like the hardest part about entrepreneurship is the beginning. When you're starting, you have no results, you have nothing to show for it. And so if you can get through that time, it's like it's the same concept as it's harder to make your first 100,000 than it is to make your first million.
Yeah.
And so like once you get to that level, it just keeps compounding over and over again, and you don't need to reach out to as many brands, and you don't need to spend all day on the phone, because you can contact a quarter of the brands that you were contacting then, but because you have the skills and the knowledge and the capital, right, you are able to scale faster. And so that being said, I think that's a good note to end on, and um, we'll see you guys next week,
All right.
7 o'clock.
See you in here next week.
Peace out.
See you there.